And so when we talk about cultivating warriorship, and one of the reasons some of our workouts are long and arduous, and we do this 50-hour training program, and some people would wonder maybe why you need to do that. And our philosophy is that that's how you cultivate the warrior spirit. And, we firmly believe in, not a religious sense, but your soul is something that needs to be, kind of cultivated, and if you ignore it, it'll kind of shrivel up and just kind of hang out until you pay attention to it. But the warrior is always propelled toward mastering, the unique attributes, I guess, of kind of that warrior archetype. So, having a very strong physical body, being mentally tough, right? Having skills that refine those traits. So, like that's why the martial arts, sword work, or the Zen kind of attributes of perfecting movements, right, is also kind of perfecting your state of awareness and your intuition and developing higher state of consciousness, believe it or not. So that's what we like to introduce in our training program, is that, hey, there's way more going on than meets the eye. And most of what's interesting about being a human being is, is pretty much not the physical body and not even the physical realm, but it's what's happening in the spirit realm and your soul, and and those things that happen when you start to develop intuition.
How do you bring those things into the training program? Let's say that week-long program that you described. Well,
I'm pretty bold about it, Jim. I mean, we basically flat out introduce, the concepts and say, okay, we don't call it necessarily, we're not going to do spiritual training today. We're going to do awareness development. And awareness is something that's very important to a warrior, right? And when I was in the SEALs, this stuff just happened, right? We weren't taught it, but those of us who were smart enough to know what was going on and who had some martial arts training really kind of knew what was going on. So what I mean by that is, when I trained with my platoon, and I'm 12 months into a training cycle with the same group of 16 guys, right, there is no question that there was nonverbal communication going on that didn't just, was beyond, hand signal, right? I mean, there was times where we were in the dead of night and had been trudging for 3 days, and, with a simple glance, we knew exactly what we were talking about, and not a single word was spoken. And we would change directions, or we would stop, and we would do these things. And I'm not, many SEALs have talked about this type of thing. There's a really good friend of mine named Mike Jaco who just wrote a book called The Intuitive Warrior, where he talks about the intuition that he developed as a SEAL over a 24-year career, and also in Iraq as a contractor, where he was actually experiencing some precognition, and also has become a remote viewer through developing these awareness skills.
What's the name of his book?
Intuitive Warrior. It's a fantastic book, and I highly recommend it. And the author is Michael Jaco, Jaco. And he was a friend of mine, Navy SEAL. In fact, he was the fellow who taught me my hand-to-hand combat program. We did this 30-day program where we fought for 10 hours a day for 30 days. And by the 21st or 22nd day, we were totally, the way we were moving was not using our minds. I mean, it was just flowing out of us, and it was very, very cool.
That's one of the principles of martial arts, too, right?
Absolutely. And typically it takes, 20 or 30 years of mastery, because people are just picking away at it with a toothpick, right, for 2 hours here, 2 hours there, a couple times a week. But if you ever had the opportunity to spend 10 hours a day doing, training in one thing, it's unbelievable the accelerated learning that happens in that environment. And that's kind of one of the reasons I started the immersion camp here with SEALFIT, is I wanted people to put their BlackBerries down and put their suits away and just literally say, okay, I'll stop. I'm going to train nonstop for 21 days and see what happens. And it's unbelievable what does happen. I mean, people literally transform before your eyes. It's very cool.
You mentioned earlier, you talked about something, I thought I heard you say something about being in the flow or the flow.
Right.
Is that what you're talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, there's different words for it depending upon what lens you're looking through. From the sports lens, people talk about the flow or the zone, and we believe that's the same thing as being in a real nice meditative state where you're completely aware, right? Your senses and intuition are at that heightened state, and your mind is focused on as much as possible, as much as this is possible, this moment. You're not, processing something from the past. You're not thinking about dinner tonight or balancing your checkbook in your head or thinking about how cold you are or, how much your toe hurts. You are just utterly present. And when that happens, right, you're in the flow in a sporting event or whether you're doing a SEAL-Fit workout.
How do the people that take your week-long program stay in shape when they go away from the program?
Well, one of the principles we try to teach is that discipline is the root word of discipline is disciple, and it's to be a disciple to your training, and that the training, working out and training are two different things. A warrior has a training plan that covers, we call them the 5 mountains of the physical, the mental, the emotional, the senses and awareness, and the spiritual, sides of your being. And so we develop this training program, and then we ask them to commit to sticking to it. And a lot of people fall off, of course, because it sounds simple, but it's not easy to do. So we have support systems. We do have an online training program that they get for free if they come out here, and that provides a lot of motivation, and there's mental toughness stuff in that, and a workout every day. And then we have a lot of them who come back and say, okay, I'm ready for the next level. I want to come back and train with you again to really kind of deepen the skills and my commitment to the training.
So you have like advanced seminars?
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're starting to develop more because we're pretty early in the game, but we'll have probably an advanced Kokoro by the end of next year, and same thing with our martial arts program and stuff like that.
I noted earlier you mentioned that the Greeks do this particular way of thinking, and I just was going to point out that Plato was a gymnast as well as being a thinker.
Absolutely. In fact, I think you couldn't be a citizen unless you were involved in athletics back in ancient Greece.
That's a very good point. Very good point. We have just a few minutes more to go. What's your high point that you would leave our audience with? What would you say is the most important thing they should take away from what you've been talking about?
Well, to me, the most important thing is that everybody has it within them to be SEAL fit, to train the way that we train. Even SEALs started at ground zero, right? I mean, I train a lot of SEAL candidates who come to me and they're not super fit, but they have this dream. And so we start them on the crawl, walk, run.
I can hear our music in the background. I guess we're getting off a little slightly early today, but finish that sentence and then we'll go.
Well, you got to start somewhere, and so start with a crawl, and then start to walk, and then run, but start. I think that's the key. Is just start training hard, and stop just working out. Training and working out are two different things. And if you want to know more, come to our website or give me a call.
Well, listen, we've been listening to Of Consuming Interest, talking to Commander Mark Devine, who's a former active duty SEAL, now a Navy Reserve SEAL, a person very much involved in all of the activities that we've been talking about in terms of fitness. And Mark, I really appreciate your being here. This is Of Consuming Interest, and I'm Jim Turner in Washington, D.C., Chairman of the Board of Citizens for Health. We'll look forward to seeing you here next week. Thanks again for coming, Mark.
Hey, you're welcome, Jim. Thank you very much. Take care.